Okay, so this is what we're going to be covering today. Firstly, we'll provide some information about the Bell Foundation, what we do and the resources we offer for supporting people in the criminal justice system. Then we'll provide an overview of the training courses that we offer, including a couple of taster activities for you to try out a couple of activities yourselves. And lastly, there will be information on how you can register and enroll on these courses and when they take place. So first, just a little bit of background about us, what we do. So the Bell Educational Trust, which is our umbrella organisation, has been around for over 60 years now, largely carrying out English language teaching activities, both in the UK and abroad. We were founded by Frank Bell, whose picture you can see here, and this all came about because he spent 4 years as a prisoner of war in Borneo during World War II. Conditions were very harsh. Prisoners were not allowed to meet in groups or do any activities under risk of extreme punishment if they breached any rules. And as a way of surviving this ordeal, he taught his fellow prisoners French and Spanish. And this led to him setting up essentially a kind of secret university where he and his fellow prisoners would clandestinely meet, usually at night, to teach each other programs of various subjects. And this included creating full curriculums and assessments written on the backs of whatever scraps they could find, cigarette packets and soap wrappers, and so on. So Frank Bell himself was a languages specialist, and when he came back to the UK after the war, he founded a language school in the belief that the route to international cooperation and shared understanding lay in collective learning. So this really is an ethos that we still very much adhere to. And in 2011, the Bell Foundation was set up to further this vision by working to overcome exclusion through language education, and in separation to the business side of Bell, which continues to this day as a language school here in Cambridge, which is where our offices are based. So our work in language education encompasses 3 main programme areas. First of all, we have our English as an Additional Language, or EAL, programme, which supports children using EAL in the English school system. And this is mainly achieved through teacher and school staff training, materials development, and we also do policy influencing and research. Secondly is our ESL programme. ESL is English for speakers of other languages, and that's the label given to English language education aimed at adults who live in the UK. And again, our focus here is on influencing policy and thought leadership. And thirdly, and the reason we're here today, is our criminal justice programme, which seeks to break down the language and cultural barriers to accessing and achieving justice and rehabilitation for people who speak English as an additional or second language in contact with the English and Welsh criminal justice system. So again, we have a big focus on influencing policy and collecting information and research to inform guidance of good practice. And we focus on 2 main areas here: people in prison and victims of crime who use English as an additional language. So Emily and I are going to speak in more detail about what kind of activities we do to achieve this, and some of the resources we have created to support those of you working with speakers of English as an additional language in this sector. So here's an overview of some of the partnerships that we currently have, and we are currently partnering with to support victims of crime and vulnerable speakers of English as an additional language in the prison system. So within the prison system, we have partnered with Shannon Trust to support reading and the learning of English for people in prison. We are also currently working with Coracle Inside, who will be sharing some of our ESOL and English learning materials for prisoners on their secure devices. We also work with PACT, which is the Prisoner Advice and Care Trust, to support people in prison who use English as a second or additional language, to help them engage with PACT's learning interventions, for example, developing learning materials to support relationship skills and training PACT staff to better support the family needs of prisoners who speak English as a second or additional language. We also work with and have worked with a number of organisations related to victim support. We work with the Law Centres Network to improve the support given to victims of hate crime, domestic violence, slavery and exploitation who speak English as an additional language. And our work with Hibiscus Initiatives focuses on developing a new model of care for victims of slavery and trafficking, both in the prison system and the community, using linguistic and cultural knowledge to break down communication barriers, improve communication to assist those victims. And lastly, here we have our partnership with Why Me, and that supports adults who use English as a second or additional language better access and engage in restorative justice. You can see our website for further details. I think Emily's just posted the link in the chat. Thank you. So our research in the area of criminal justice is very important as it helps us guide the direction of our work and builds the evidence base for policy and practice recommendations and system change. So in March 2022, last year, we released a series of outputs called Language Barriers in the Criminal Justice System, which included a research report providing an overview of the issues within the sector, and a number of other documents, such as the one you can see here, which details the experiences of victims and witnesses who speak English as an additional language. We also regularly submit consultations to the Ministry of Justice. For example, we've recently contributed to the submitted evidence to the draft victims bill and the prison strategy white paper. To finish this section then, I just want to share with you some of the tools and resources that form part of the Language Barriers in the Criminal Justice System research project. Firstly, we have a summary of the legal rights, entitlements and provisions that exist in different criminal justice agencies for supporting English, for supporting speakers of English as an additional language at different stages in the criminal justice process. This is presented as a table with each column representing a different stage. So you can see here it goes from reporting and arrest and investigation through to court hearing, probation, post-court and so on. And this offers a sort of an at-a-glance summary of information that can otherwise be quite difficult to collate and piece together. There is also a good practice guide for probation service staff and interpreters, which again gives guidance for how to work with those services and practitioners, both sort of before, during and after meetings. And we have good practice guidance for practitioners working with victims and witnesses of crime who speak English as a second or additional language. And again, all these documents are freely available on our website. And Emily, I think, has already posted that link in the chat box. Thank you. So in addition to the language barrier project, we have also created the ESL screening tool, which is specifically designed to be used in prisons. So this is a questionnaire that can be used to identify whether individuals who speak English as a second language would benefit from attending ESL classes. The tool has been designed to be used by prison staff who are not language specialists to aid them in making a decision about whether a prisoner should be referred for ESL lessons. We suggest it is used as part of a person's induction period. So as you can see here, there are three main documents within the suite. The tools itself, which contain instructions and question prompts. There's a record form to record the responses, make recommendations, and there's a guidance document which just explains step by step how to use the tool. This is already being used in prisons in the UK. Here's an example of some feedback we've received from one guidance worker in a prison who carries out inductions. So we're happy to see that it seems to be being well received by the people that we wanted to use it. Okay. And finally, we also have an ESL tutor resource pack available, and this was developed with the Learning and Work Institute, and it contains lesson plans and materials for ESL tutors to use with people in prison or on probation. And it's divided into 3 units, so civic, financial and health, and that maps onto the citizens curriculum. And the materials here are aimed at learners who are between ESOL entry level 1 and entry level 3. So, that's people at the beginning of their experience of learning English. And each unit has 6 lessons, all of which include extension activities as well as adaptations for beginners or higher level learners, because we know that a lot of ESOL classes will tend to involve participants with very different proficiency levels. And this pack also promotes participatory learning and suggests ways that learners can co-design sessions as well. Okay, that's a very broad overview of some of the resources that we offer, and I'm now going to pass you over to my colleague Emily, who will talk about our training resources.
So yeah, as Tom said, I'm going to give you an overview of the training. We'll have a little taster of the training, and then we'll go on to look at some information about how to register. So there are 2 versions of the training, one for staff working with victims of crime who use English as a second language, and one for people who work in prisons or with people who are resettling back into the community after being in custody who also speak English as a second language. Both the courses explore particular aspects of spoken English that can be a barrier to understanding, especially for those who are new to English. And the sessions offer interactive opportunities to unpack these features of spoken English that can cause difficulty, and then go on to explore practical strategies that participants can use to modify their own language so they can give clear instructions and check understanding. So both the sessions are similar in they have a very similar focus, but they've been adapted so that the materials are relevant to each context. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through sort of the brief outline of the training. And you can see here under each heading we've got victim support on the left, prison and probation on the right, and underneath are examples slides from the training sessions themselves. So both the sessions begin by setting the context for why it's important to use comprehensible English, looking at what current policy says about the rights of individuals and also the impact that a not understanding can have on these particular individuals. So you can see, for example, we've got a reference here to the Victims Code, but we've also got reference to European prison rules. The sessions then go on to look at a video scenario of a member of staff talking with a person who speaks English as a second language. So, for example, in the training for victim support staff, it's a video of a caseworker talking to a person who's reported a crime. And in the session for prison and probation staff, it's a video of an officer talking to a prisoner about their release. Participants then go on to engage in a group work task where they'll analyse language used in the video, thinking about how comprehensible it would be for this person who speaks English as a second language and what potential barriers there might be as well. I should say that the course can be run both online and face to face, and in both versions, we have interactive sessions. So online will be in breakout rooms, and face to face will be in small group tasks. And then as a follow-up to these interactive sessions, looking at giving participants the opportunity to discuss and analyze the language used in the video, the trainer will provide feedback and input on features of spoken English that might cause difficulty. So looking at those features there. And then this is followed up by one other video, which puts participants in the shoes of a person who's new to English, allowing them to experience what it's like to be on the other side of an interview in a language that is new to them. And that can be really powerful. Often this is one of the parts of the course which comes up in the feedback as one of the most powerful, impactful parts of the course as well. And then we go on to give participants practice in rephrasing instructions so that they can be as comprehensible as possible. So we take everything that we've looked at in the session so far, thinking about the language that's been used, what can be difficult, and the practical strategies, and then give participants an opportunity to rephrase those using the input from the session. The session then looks at how to check that a person who uses English as a second language has understood instructions. And obviously, this is really important in especially these 2 contexts because understanding provides evidence that the person that you're speaking to has understood a vital aspect of communication. So not just thinking, not just asking, do you understand? Yes, no, but looking at other reasons and ways to get evidence of understanding. And then lastly, the session finishes up by asking participants to apply what they've learned in the session to their own settings. So they've had some practice at some sort of artificial um, scenarios, and now they're looking at, okay, how does this actually apply to my own setting, considering their own language instructions that they might typically give, and how best to phrase them, and any other strategies that could help with providing support in terms of helping people to understand. So that is an overview of the training as a whole. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go on to do a little training taster. So I'm going to share with you a short voice clip of somebody who's giving a presentation about an employment course. I'd like you to listen to the clip, and in the chat box afterwards, tell me how comprehensible, oh, actually not in the chat box, just think about this question, sorry. How comprehensible would these instructions be for someone who speaks English as a second language? So once again, this is a short voice clip of someone giving presentation about an employment course. Listen to it and have this question in mind.
So, thanks for joining us to hear more about the Employ Plus Employability course. I think you're going to really like it. So, here's the basics about the course. It happens every Tuesday at 11 a.m. and for 12 weeks. And we do expect you to attend every week, but we also know that life happens. So, if you are going to miss a week, we do ask that you let us know. We can help with the basics like, getting a CV and cover letter written. Also helping you with criminal conviction disclosures too. If you have a criminal conviction, that's no problem. We want to help you to unlock your potential, to find out what it is you really want. Now we have lots of people coming to us saying, I've got nothing to offer. That's not so. Everyone has something to offer. You just need a hand finding it. So, throughout the course of this program, we'll look at your job history if you have one. Also your interests, your passions and your ambitions. There'll also be CV workshops, visits from employers. We're also looking at opportunities of volunteering to help you gain more experience should you need it. Now, if you want to sign up, and we really hope that you will, please fill out the forms which are at the back. If you need any help, just let one of us know.
Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of speech bubbles here. So how comprehensible do you think these instructions and this talk was? Was it perfectly comprehensible, crystal clear? A. Was it B, only some words or phrases were comprehensible, but there would be a lot of noise if you were a speaker of English as a second language? Would it be C, comprehensible overall, but maybe people might struggle with some words or phrases? Or D, would it be totally or virtually incomprehensible? So just let me know what you think in the chat box. Okay, thanks, Zahra. So we've got a lot of C's. Comprehensible overall, but might struggle with some words or phrases. John's going, only some words or phrases comprehensible, but a lot of noise. Okay, Carolina's come up with an example there, could give a hand, yeah. Sarah's saying C/D, so maybe comprehensible overall, or maybe totally or virtually incomprehensible. We'll just wait for Letitia to post their response. So most people thinking it's comprehensible overall, but might struggle with some words or phrases. Okay, and Letitia's saying depends on the audience. And actually that's very true, Letitia, because that's the key message that we want to get across here, because all the answers would be correct, but it depends on the person's proficiency in English. So for example, we've got some different scales here. So we've got from new to English all the way to fluent, and that's our framework that we use in schools. Um, Obviously, for adults, we've got the ESL entry levels here on the right. So for somebody who's totally or virtually incomprehensible, for somebody who's new to English, this would be that talk would be totally or virtually incomprehensible. For somebody who was in the early acquisition stages, or in other words, ESL entry 2, some words or phrases will be comprehensible, but there will be a lot of noise. For somebody who is developing competence, so ESOL entry 3 or level 1, it would be comprehensible overall, but there would be some new words or phrases. And somebody who is fluent, that would be perfectly comprehensible and crystal clear. So really, it's exactly what you said, Letitia. It depends on your proficiency in English. So, what could be difficult to understand? So we're going to look at this little extract here, and I'd like you to have a look at it. And in the chat box, let me know in this extract, what would be difficult to understand if you were new to English? Okay, yeah, so Letitia, you've got attend, miss a week, life happens. Also, Carolina's got expect, and the same couple of other suggestions. Too much information in one sentence. Yep, absolutely. Lacking clarity. So it's not that clear really, is it? It's because there's a lot of information. Absolutely, Sharmila, because there's a lot of information in one go. It's quite difficult to see what the point is that they're trying to make. And that for somebody who's new to English could easily cause them to get lost. Absolutely. So Leon is saying they're using slang terms that we would use as English speakers, but don't make much sense to those using English as a second language. So maybe, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, Leona. So I think maybe we're thinking about life happens and things like that. Yeah. Exactly. So we had the same things, but we also had picked up on this use of the overuse of the word do. So we do expect you to attend every week. We do ask that you let us know. So sometimes we use the word do like this to emphasize things. But actually it's confusing, would be confusing for somebody who's new to English, because normally we use this word when we're asking questions. So that could be confusing. As you said, we have these idiomatic phrases, life happens. So it's, as you said, it's not clear exactly what that means to somebody who's new to English. We also have, it's very long sentences and complex grammar. So we do ask that you let us know. It's overly long and complex, so that could be shortened to something much more concise. And as you said, overall, there's far too much, far too many words for the main message that needs to be given. So in the chat box, what if you were going to rewrite this to make it more comprehensible, so a little bit more straightforward, thinking about what we've just identified as being a barrier, what would you write? So what would be a better, clearer alternative? Okay, great. So we've got Carolina saying, you have to attend every week, but if you can't, please let us know. Absolutely, that's much more concise. And really narrowing that down, we do expect you to attend to you have to, which is the key message there, isn't it? Taking away that idiomatic language, life happens. Come every week, but just tell us if you have problems. Yeah, also great. That would work. A smiley face there. So we had something very similar. So you need to come every week. If you can't come one week, that's okay, but please tell us. So very similar to what we had in the chat box, exactly. So we're going to look at one more example now. So another example on the screen. Have a look and let me know in the chat box again what could be difficult to understand if you are new to English about this extract from the listening. Yeah, absolutely. So Imogen's saying more slang again, like, you know, just need a hand. Yeah, absolutely. And it's phrases like need a hand, which are they're not clear because it's idiomatic, which means it's not literal. It doesn't mean that you need a physical hand. Obviously, we understand that it means you need help, but somebody who's new to English would hear that and they might not understand that that it's not literal meaning. So that could be very, very confusing. Offer, yeah, that's true. We can help you succeed. We all have things to offer. Yeah, absolutely. So again, there's complex language there, which is a barrier. We have also things like unlock your potential. That's likely to be far too complex for somebody who's new to English. And there's a lot of noise here, so it's excessively long for the amount of information that's and the key message that needs to be got across. So all of this could be taken away. So the key message really is we want to find out what you really want to do. And as an alternative, we could say, we want to find out what job you want and we want to help you find a good job. So that's the key message, really synthesized down into very straightforward language. And the key thing here is that it really just allows learners to stay with you, because if you've got all of this other language that is really long and confusing, it's just people will get lost and could get disheartened as well. So that is a small taster. Thank you for your participation as well in that. That's a very small snippet and taster of the kind of thing that we'll be doing in the session. So that listening is not taken directly from the session. So you'll be looking at different examples in the session itself. But that's a little taster of what the training sort of looks like. In terms of registering for the training, we have a few dates already online for our open access online courses. So there's one on the 29th of June and also the 6th of December for victim support staff. And for prison and probation staff, we have one booked in for the 20th of September. The training is 2.5 hours long. And these courses are all online courses, so they're all done online. So I think it'll either be via Zoom or Teams, but I'm not sure. So if you need any more information, this is the email address to use to get in touch with us. info@bell-foundation.org.uk. We can also do closed group sessions. So if you think that there is you work in an organization where you think this training would be appropriate for a number of people within your organization, we can either do that face to face or we can do it online. So just let us know what the if you have any requests. I can see that Caroline is asking, are the courses free of charge? For the most up-to-date information about the courses, I would say go to the Eventbrite page. There are different prices for different sort of depending on, I think, what organisation
Different types of organisations, yeah.
that you work for, different types of organisations. So there is an Eventbrite page on our website, so do have a look on there for the most up-to-date. I'm not sure if it's yeah, have a look there, and that should be able to let you know. And then yes, we have a moment for any questions anybody has.
There was
I
a
guess-
question in the chat earlier that I'd just like to address. So John asked, do we work with staff in immigration detention and removal centres? So up until now, we've only focused on working with prison staff and victim support staff. So the short answer is no, I think. But I think it's certainly a space we'd be interested in working with, and it dovetails quite nicely with our ESL program, which does work with a lot of organisations supporting refugees and asylum seekers. And I think you've just mentioned, haven't you, that we can do closed trainings for different groups, and so it's potentially something to get in touch with us with. And I don't know if you have anything to add, Emily.
No, I think that covers it for what I had to say. Yeah.
Lizzie's just posted the costs. The different costs there. Yeah, the reason we haven't published it is because it's a bit variable, and it does depend on we've been rolling out some courses at cheaper prices and things like that as a trial. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled basically on the website and see what comes up, because it might change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super. Well, in that case, we just want to say thank you then for joining us, and we won't take up any more of your time, because we know that you're everyone's very busy. But we appreciate your participation today, and just want to say thank you and goodbye.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye.